Hello and welcome to Sports Room. I'm Anirudh Madhavan and with me is veteran journalist Ayaz Memon. On today's episodes, we'll talk about the ongoing World Cup and how the teams are shaping up now that all of them have played 5 matches each. So let's start off with India, Ayaz. Hardik Pandya's injury is more serious than earlier thought, and that's a bit of a concern. But given the fact that India have won 5 out of 5 and they'll most likely make it through to the knockouts, the team management wouldn't exactly be rushing him back in, right?
They shouldn't. I mean, you don't need to rush him in unless there is an absolute emergency, which I don't see happening at this stage because right now India are more or less certain of a place in the semi-finals. That gives him a little more time to recover. But as you mentioned, the injury is not as it's not as mild as was originally imagined. So if it's going to take a couple of more games, that means one has to be watchful and concerned about how Hardik Pandya, you know, recovers and rehabs from there, from the position he is in. So, and he's such a vital cog that if India are in the semis and if he's fit, then obviously he gets into the team right away. So that's how the situation plays out with Hardik.
Yeah. Another problem that India have, not really a problem, it's like we're trying to make up problems, make up gaps in India's campaign right now. But the problem is that India haven't set a target yet. They've chased in all the games and they've done so convincingly. So do you think that is a problem? And should India just look to bat in the next game regardless of the pitch and the conditions?
I don't think India should be too concerned about whether they've batted first or second because that's not in their hand. Having said that, I think India should actually take heart and confidence from the fact that they've batted superbly. Even when there was a hint of a crisis or there was a crisis, they've emerged from it very strong. Like in the first match against against Australia, when 3 wickets fell for 2 runs, and it seemed that there was a not just a stutter but a crisis, but they came out of it very strongly. So I don't think that India should be too concerned about whether they batted first or second. Yes, of course, if we had had a fairly even run of both batting first as well as batting second, you would have been far more confident with the same results, or you would have been far more assured, not confident. But I don't think I mean, just going by how this batting lineup has fared on these pitches and against all kinds of opponents, I don't think it's a matter of great concern at all.
What is a concern? We will move on from India, and what is a concern for our neighbor in the north, Pakistan, is that you saw the reactions when they lost to Afghanistan, and Wasim Akram wasn't particularly kind about the shape of the cheeks of some of the players, and there was talk about some eating mutton and everything. And today, the PCB has released a statement that seems to throw Captain Babar Azam under the bus. So, what is happening?
Well, obviously he'll be it's not just a fall guy. And let's face it, Anirudh, because Babar has had a poor World Cup by his own standards, even with the bat, and certainly as a captain. Because I think over the years, and this has been fairly well established, that Pakistan have done really well when they've had a leader, not just a captain. And I'm trying to make that distinction between somebody who just captains a team and somebody who leads the team, as he leads out and works and talks and communicates, and his body language is that of a leader. When you think of guys like an Imran Khan, even Javed Mianda to an extent, Wasim Akram, Misbahul Haq, Inzamamul Haq, I have never seen such meek body language as I've seen from Babar. And he's a first-rate player. We all know it. His weak form with the bat seems to have affected his captaincy, or his weak captaincy seems to have affected his batting form. Both could be true, but that is not helping the team at all. And somewhere it seems to have rubbed off on the rest of the team. This kind of uh, almost a mild, submissive demeanor, which is so alien to Pakistan team. I mean, look at their fast bowlers. They're struggling to get wickets in their first few overs and going for plenty. The spinners haven't worked at all. The only guys who stood up primarily is Mohammad Rizwan, who's stout-hearted, who's combative, who's a man for a crisis. Shafiq and South Shakil every now and then. But otherwise, it's been a fairly disastrous campaign for Pakistan, and I think it was inevitable that Babar will face the harshest criticism, which is something he should have anticipated. In fact, I've been hearing, and reading, and so many things about. Even people saying that it was a mistake to make him captain for this series, considering that Pakistan didn't do much in the Asia Cup, and before that, the matches that they won are against weaker teams like Zimbabwe, maybe a Bangladesh. So it's not that they were a very strong coming into the World Cup. I think a lot of us, all of us, believed that because it was in the subcontinent, Pakistan would really fare well, and guys like Babar would set the stage alight. But it's not happened.
So we'll move on to a team that is possibly in deeper trouble than Pakistan, which is England, the defending champions. They won just one game against Bangladesh and lost everything else, lost to Afghanistan. What is happening to the defending champions, Ayaz?
I wish I knew. I mean, it's just gone completely haywire where England is concerned. I mean, when you look at the team on paper, when they came here, everybody, kind of were worried, at least their opponents, that this team bats till almost number 11. A string of all-rounders, Liam Livingston, Ben Stokes, Sam Curran, Moeen Ali, and so on. Even Josh Butler, who's a wicket-keeper batsman, nothing seems to have worked. You take away David Malan, who's made 100, and has got a couple of decent scores, or Joe Root, who's got a couple of half centuries. There's not much to kind of even comment about this England team, the performance. Ben Stokes sat out the first few matches. I wonder why. I mean, if you've come for the World Cup and you're the team's premier player, I mean, and then you obviously, when you suffer a massive setback against Afghanistan, then you go and kind of wear your socks and your shoes and walk out onto the field. But maybe by that time, it's too much has been already lost. Now, I'm not blaming Ben Stokes alone, but Moeen Ali, Josh Butler, even Johnny Bairstow, Liam Livingston, these are the big guns who've just failed to boom. Sam Curran, who's got so much experience of the IPL playing in India. Chris Wokes. I mean, none of these guys are firing at all. It's a colossal disaster. And I think somewhere it's to do with the approach. I think they perhaps took some things for granted, that since there were so many players who were familiar with Indian conditions, they would automatically adjust and adapt. Then there was this thing that, oh, we were defending champions, there was a certain way we played, but that was in England, and therefore you had to kind of change your approach playing in India. And I mean, just I thought perhaps even the tactics, Josh Butler not opening the innings even till now, I mean, is I find that strange, because if you're an opposing bowler, an opponent, not bowling to Josh Butler at the start, and especially when they're on the back foot, and you know that Josh Butler is eager to do something special, then you feel very relieved. I mean, Johnny Bairstow is a fine batsman, but he's not Josh Butler. So I think that there's been a combination of things that have gone haywire, and I mean, I don't think even a miracle can save them. Their next match is against India, so and there's a match pending against Australia. This is one can almost say that this has been England. This is England going back about 2 World Cups and playing the way they used to do.
Yeah.
And it's a colossal disaster.
Last question from me. It's not about a particular team, it's about the tournament in general. We haven't, I have seen very close games, the nail biting finishes, last over thrillers. Do you think there's a reason for that, or it's just happening?
No, I think you see, even the ODI game has evolved, and you've seen very close matches, perhaps in the last few World Cups, last 2, 3 World Cups, very few of them actually. So, earlier the concern used to be that the middle overs have become so predictable,
Yeah.
and so on. I think that there is a bit of mental sorting out that needs to be done by players who are now playing so much of T20 cricket. And when they come into ODIs, that they perhaps are finding it a little difficult to adjust temperamentally. So if you look at, teams like even England, some of their players feel they're playing T20 cricket. It's one-day cricket is a 50-over game. It's a combination of what you can do with T20 and with Test cricket. And I think that India, New Zealand to a great extent, South Africa they're on in the zone. They're playing at a different level altogether. And then Australia, who sprung back from almost being on the brink of, at the bottom half of the pool and perhaps exiting early, they've sprung back very strongly. But all these teams are playing out their 50 overs. England, as we speak, England didn't play out their 50 overs. Some of Pakistan have been struggling to play out 50 overs, and even if they're not posting good enough scores. So I think somewhere the tactics and the temperament that are needed for ODIs is under scrutiny, and there are only very few teams that are being able to adjust to it in this World Cup.
Yeah, and especially because this is not a format that has been in focus for the last 4 years, almost like a World Cup to World Cup thing. So they just focus on the format when there's a World Cup, building up to the World Cup, maybe a year before, but that's it. So we just hope that there are some more thrilling encounters, and especially leading up to the knockouts, you would expect them. So and India, England coming up on Sunday. So let's see what India can do, and let's see if England survives. So that's it for this episode of Sports Room. See you next time.
Thanks, Adil.